In the disputed South China Sea, where tensions simmer just below the surface, a dramatic standoff unfolded near Scarborough Shoal. The situation escalated rapidly when two Chinese warships, aggressively maneuvering to intercept a Philippine patrol boat, ended up colliding with each other in a chaotic moment that underscored the volatility of these contested waters. The Philippine vessel was carrying out what it considered a routine patrol within its exclusive economic zone, a right protected under international law and recognized by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. However, China, which claims nearly the entire South China Sea, saw this patrol as a direct challenge to its authority, heightening the risk of confrontation. The collision between the two Chinese ships was a stark reminder of the dangers posed by aggressive naval tactics in these increasingly crowded and contested waters. The damage to both vessels was visible, serving as a physical testament to the risks inherent in brinkmanship at sea. This incident was far from isolated. Scarborough Shoal has become a flashpoint for repeated confrontations, with Chinese vessels frequently harassing Filipino fishermen and government ships, often forcing them to retreat from their own traditional fishing grounds. The latest collision highlights just how quickly control can be lost in these tense situations and how risky brinkmanship has become for all parties involved. With so many ships operating in close quarters, even a minor miscalculation can have serious, far-reaching consequences. For the Philippines, this was a near miss that could have easily turned tragic. The sailors aboard the patrol boat were left shaken, acutely aware that a split-second difference could have resulted in loss of life or a major international crisis. For China, the incident was an embarrassing operational failure, exposing the risks of its assertive tactics. Yet, despite the setback, Beijing's strategic ambitions in the region remain unchanged, and its naval presence continues to grow. The world watched closely. The United States and its allies saw the collision as a wake-up call, highlighting the urgent need for de-escalation and the dangers of unchecked military posturing in one of the world's busiest maritime corridors. Each new incident adds another layer of mistrust between the nations involved, raising the stakes for future encounters and making diplomatic solutions even more elusive. The collision serves as a stark warning. Aggressive maneuvers in contested waters can spiral out of control in an instant, threatening not just the ships involved, but regional peace and stability as a whole. In this climate of rising tension, the need for a rules-based order and effective communication between nations has never been more urgent. Only through dialogue and adherence to international law can the risk of future collisions and potential conflict be reduced. Scarborough Shoal, known as Panatag Shoal to the Philippines and Huangyan Dao to China, is far more than just a cluster of uninhabited rocks rising from the sea. It is a flashpoint in one of the world's most contested maritime regions, a symbol of national pride, and a focal point for international attention. This shoal is a strategic and economic prize, drawing the attention of powerful nations and shaping the lives of those who depend on its waters. Located just 124 nautical miles from Luzon, the largest island in the Philippines, Scarborough Shoal sits well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, as defined by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. For China, gaining control over the shoal would complete a strategic triangle with its other island holdings in the South China Sea, significantly boosting its military reach, surveillance capabilities, and ability to project power across vital shipping lanes. But for Filipino fishermen, the shoal is much more personal, a lifeline that provides food, income, and a way of life passed down through generations. Beneath its waters, the area is also believed to hold valuable oil and gas reserves, making it a potential energy jackpot for whoever controls it, and raising the stakes for all involved. Since China seized control of the shoal in 2012, Filipino fishermen have faced constant harassment, intimidation, and even blockades, forcing many to risk their safety or abandon their traditional fishing grounds. The ongoing dispute is about more than just territory. It's a battle over sovereignty, access to natural resources, and the future of energy security in the region. The Philippines bases its claim on proximity and the backing of international law, especially the 2016 arbitral ruling that favored its position. China, on the other hand, asserts historic rights and points to its controversial 9-dash line, which covers most of the South China Sea, as justification for its presence. Taiwan also claims the shoal, further complicating the already tangled web of competing interests and making the situation even more volatile. Every patrol, every fishing trip, and every diplomatic move in these waters is a test of national resolve. A high-stakes game with consequences that ripple far beyond the South China Sea, affecting regional stability and the global balance of power. In response to the collision, the U.S. deployed two Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, the USS Higgins and USS Cincinnati, to the South China Sea. This was a clear signal of American resolve and support for the Philippines. The warships' mission: assert freedom of navigation and deter further aggression. Their presence reassured allies and warned Beijing that the U.S. is watching closely. Chinese naval vessels quickly shadowed the U.S. ships, a familiar cat-and-mouse game in these waters. While the shadowing was professional, the tension was unmistakable. Every maneuver is scrutinized and the risk of escalation is ever present. This deployment is part of the broader U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy to keep the region free and open. By challenging excessive claims, the U.S. reinforces that the South China Sea is an international waterway. The presence of these warships is a tangible commitment to a rules-based order. The Scarborough Shoal incident and U.S. response triggered swift international reactions. The U.S. ambassador to the Philippines condemned China's actions, reaffirming support for Manila. Allies like Australia, Japan, and New Zealand voiced deep concern, calling for peaceful resolution and adherence to international law. Their united front isolated China diplomatically and underscored the global stakes. This network of alliances boosts the Philippines' position, turning a bilateral dispute into a broader international issue. The pressure on Beijing is real, as attempts to intimidate one nation now draw a coordinated response. Beyond words, these countries are deepening security cooperation, joint exercises, intelligence sharing, and diplomatic initiatives. The incident has only strengthened these partnerships. The world's message is clear. Stability in the South China Sea is a shared priority. The USS Higgins and USS Cincinnati's deployment is part of the U.S. Freedom of Navigation operations, commonly known as FONOPs. These missions are a visible demonstration of American naval power and commitment to international law, sending a clear message to the world about the importance of free and open seas. FONOPs specifically challenge excessive maritime claims that the U.S. deems inconsistent with international law, particularly those made by China with its sweeping 9-dash line. This controversial boundary, which covers most of the South China Sea, has been rejected by an international tribunal, but China continues to assert its claims. By deliberately sailing through these contested waters without seeking permission, the U.S. Navy asserts that these are international seas, open to all nations for navigation and overflight, as guaranteed by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. FONOPs are central to U.S. strategy in the South China Sea, serving as a physical enforcement of the principle of open navigation. These operations are not just symbolic, they are a practical assertion of rights that many countries depend on for trade and security. China routinely intercepts and shadows U.S. warships during these missions, leading to tense standoffs and close encounters at sea. The presence of Chinese vessels is a constant reminder of the high-stakes competition for influence in these waters. These close encounters can quickly escalate, with the potential for miscalculation or misunderstanding always present. Even a minor incident could spiral into a larger conflict, making every FONOP a calculated risk. Despite these risks, the U.S. continues to conduct FONOPs regularly, determined to prevent unlawful territorial claims from becoming accepted as the new normal. Each patrol is a reaffirmation of the U.S. commitment to upholding international norms. FONOPs are a clear declaration to the world. Navigation rights will be defended, and the U.S. will not back down in the face of intimidation or pressure. The South China Sea is a vital artery for global commerce, and it must remain open to all nations. Billions of dollars in trade pass through these waters every year, making freedom of navigation essential for the world economy. The stakes are high. One mistake or misjudgment could trigger a major crisis, with consequences that would ripple far beyond the region. For Washington, upholding the legal order at sea is non-negotiable. The U.S. sees itself as a guardian of the rules-based international system, and FONOPs are a key part of that mission. Commodore J. Tariella of the Philippine Coast Guard warns that aggressive Chinese maneuvers make accidents at sea almost inevitable. When large vessels operate with hostility in close quarters, the margin for error vanishes. Ignoring international safety rules, Chinese ships create a hazardous environment for all. The real danger isn't deliberate war. but a catastrophic miscalculation that spirals out of control. Preventing such incidents requires professionalism, adherence to safety protocols, and reliable crisis communication. In these tense waters, a single mistake could ignite a conflict no one wants. In the aftermath, the U.S. reaffirmed its commitment to the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty with the Philippines. The treaty promises that an armed attack on one is an attack on both, serving as Manila's ultimate security guarantee. U.S. officials clarified, any attack on Philippine forces or vessels in the South China Sea would trigger American defense obligations. This removes ambiguity and sends a clear warning to China. Coercion could mean direct conflict with the U.S. The treaty gives the Philippines confidence to assert its rights despite Chinese pressure. It raises the stakes for any hostile action, forcing adversaries to consider the certainty of an American response. The alliance is a cornerstone of regional stability and a check on aggression. It ensures that might alone cannot dictate the future of the South China Sea. China's actions in the South China Sea are part of a calculated strategy to establish control and assert sovereignty. Its 9-line claim covers nearly 90% of the sea, enforced by Navy, Coast Guard, and maritime militia. Tactics like cabbage blockades and harassment are designed to squeeze out other claimants without crossing into open war. China's dismissal of the 2016 tribunal ruling and its island-building campaign have permanently altered the region's balance. Militarized artificial islands now serve as forward bases, projecting power far from China's coast. This assertiveness has forced neighbors to seek stronger alliances, especially with the U.S. Despite talk of peace, China's actions are driving instability and rewriting the regional order. Amid rising tensions, calls for de-escalation and diplomacy are growing louder. The Philippines and its allies urge China to respect maritime safety rules and international law. Dialogue and legal frameworks, not coercion, are the only legitimate paths to resolution. Open communication between militaries is essential to prevent misunderstandings and manage crises. The risk of miscalculation is ever present, with global consequences. Lasting peace depends on mutual respect, professionalism, and a shared commitment to rules. The hope that all sides will step back from the brink and choose dialogue over confrontation.